Avi Lipkin is from Israel and is a member of Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party. His wife has worked with Egyptian intelligence. Today we will ask Avi what the Arab Spring is really all about and if America will ultimately go to war against Iran. Stay tuned for this exciting edition of Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it. You will not want to go away. We have a very special guest scheduled for the program today. Mr. Avi Lipkin from the nation of Israel will be with us. He has been a guest here before and a marvelous spokesperson for what's going on inside the Middle East. In particular, his wife was previously employed by Egyptian intelligence, so she's going to bring to us a perspective through Avi that will allow us to have some insight that's not been available to us before. While we're waiting for Avi to join us, I will be preaching tomorrow evening at the North Cities Pentecostal Church. That's located at 502 Beltline in Garland, Texas. If you would like to be with us, we would love to have you. That's at 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday at the North Cities Pentecostal Church, and you are invited to attend that service. I certainly hope you would enjoy being there with us. That's at 7:30 p.m., and the address, once again, is 502 Beltline, right in Garland, Texas. So please make plans to be with us. We would love to have you in that service tomorrow evening. That is the church that I make my home church when I'm in town, and I think it's a wonderful place to be. So if you'd like to be with us, we'd love to have you Wednesday night. That'll be tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Okay, now I see that Avi has joined us. This is Avi Lipkin from the nation of Israel. Avi, so wonderful to have you on Politics and Religion once again.
Great to be back.
A lot going on since we had you with us the last time, Avi. And I've got several things I want to ask you about. I guess the big news is the Palestinians' determination that they will go before the UN Security Council asking the granting of statehood to be recognized as a state with full UN membership within 67 borders and also with East Jerusalem as its capital. Where do you expect this to ultimately go?
Well, there are one of two possibilities. Possibility number one is that the Arab League and certain other countries in the world that are very interested in a showdown with Israel and a war with Israel will indeed push for this kind of a situation. I come maybe from a slightly different approach, which says the following. If you've been looking at all the Arab countries in the Middle East, if you've been looking at Egypt and Yemen and Libya and Tunisia and Syria, and these countries are all going up in flames, and you don't see the Palestinians in the streets of Israel protesting. The Palestinians themselves are very, very happy with living with the Jews and living with Israel. They work with us, they live with us, they eat and drink with us, they share family occasions with us. The problem is you've got a leadership which is loyal to Islam, and this loyal to Islam business is not good for the Palestinian people because what it's going to do is it's going to lead to a war with Israel. Why? Because no Islamic leader can recognize the Jewish state of Israel and stay alive. That's one of the reasons why Arafat never signed any real agreement with Israel. It was all a lie. Abu Mazen will not sign an agreement with Israel because he'll be killed, and he keeps threatening that he's going to resign because he doesn't want to die. And so you have here two contradictions. You have those people who want a war with Israel, which will basically mean the termination of the so-called Palestinian Authority. And then on the other hand, you have the masses of people who are Arabs, Palestinians, who, okay, they want to stay, but they know that a state of Palestine will be destructive for the Palestinians.
So they've already stated they are going to press ahead with application for membership. The United Nations Security Council, of course, is the ultimate voice. The U.S. holds veto power at the UN Security Council, and we've sent out the signal, supposedly, that we will veto the application by the Palestinians. And then the Palestinians say, well, if you do, we will then go to the General Assembly, where, yes, they cannot grant us full membership, but they can grant us non-membership state recognition. So do you, number one, believe that the Obama administration will, in fact, veto the application of the Palestinians? And if they do, and if the majority of the General Assembly votes yes for membership by the Palestinians, where do you expect all this to lead?
Well, number one, the latest rumors, and I think you know, Irwin, there's so many rumors flying around. The latest rumors are that Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has surrendered, basically, to Netanyahu, to Obama. Netanyahu's advisors deny this, but supposedly that Israel would be willing to renew negotiations with the Palestinians on the condition that they postpone or withdraw their September unilateral declaration of independence. The basis of the negotiations would be the June 5th, 67 border lines, which, of course, can never happen. So, you know, I don't want to be, facetious, but your guess is as good as mine. Only God knows what was really cooking behind the scenes there. Is there a deal between Obama and Netanyahu, or better said, is Obama crushing Netanyahu into submission? There are those people who say the Palestinians are bluffing, that they will never go for a state in September. They have too much to lose. So it's very hard to know at this stage, what could come about in September.
Is there a chance, with all this pressure that's being created by the possibility, because Israel doesn't want to see a majority vote, especially if it were a strong majority, say 150 to 30 voted for a Palestinian state with maybe 20 or 30 abstentions. Most of the time when there's a vote where Israel is concerned, the vote's usually like 150 to 2 or 150 to 3. Israel, the United States, and maybe Costa Rica or somebody like that voting with us. But in this particular case, they're almost sure to get a majority, and probably a healthy majority, in favor of Palestinian statehood, even though it has no real power, yet it would have a tremendous moral power. So apparently Israel really wants to avoid this happening. Is there a chance that there are negotiations going on behind the scenes right now that could be trying to put together a deal before September comes?
That's exactly what I've been saying. Like I said before, there's so much going on behind the scenes, and there's so many rumors that it's very, very hard to know what's really happening. By the way, I have to tell you, in 1991, I came to Dallas, and I spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations, something which was a big surprise for everybody, including myself. And I got invited back a second time, but I never went because I was supposed to debate with the Palestinian professor Edward Said. And the Israeli government said, you can't talk to Edward Said, he's a PLO representative, and PLO are terrorists. And at that same time that I could not meet with a PLO terrorist, Rabin and Yossi Beilin and Peres were meeting with these same PLO terrorists in Oslo to create the infamous Oslo Accords. So, there's so much secret stuff going on behind the scenes. And, I'm a preacher in churches, a Jewish preacher in churches. I'm not on the front row of the secret negotiations.
Well, when you see all this coming down, we know what the prophecies of the Bible say. And so what we're really doing is saying we know where this is headed, but we don't know exactly how we get from point A to point B. And it's obviously fascinating. Let me ask you this, Avi, and I don't know whether you have any inside information to help us with this or not, but there have been several articles appeared over the last 6 months or so that the way they're going to deal with the settlement problem, there are two big problems in the peace negotiations. Number one, the settlement problem, and that is there's 300,000 Jews living in Judea, Samaria. There's another 250,000 Jews living in East Jerusalem. So you've got a total of 550, 600,000 Jewish people that are now across the 1967 borderline. So most people believe that will never be able to be solved like they tried to solve the problem in Gaza when the military moved in and carried away 9,000 Jews by force, that they would never be able to do that again because it would cause a civil war in Israel, especially when you're talking about 550 to 600,000. So there's been a proposal by Salam Fayyad, the prime minister of the Palestinians, that instead of that happening, that the Jews could just simply stay in their properties, maintain ownership, that it would be respected by the agreement, and that they would live as an Israeli minority in a Palestinian state, like many Palestinians live as a Palestinian minority in an Israeli state. And I've received some indication that Netanyahu might be willing to consider such an arrangement. What do you think?
Never in a million years, my dear friend. Again, I have to correct you on one little thing. You forgive me. The preacher in me is coming out. The problem is not the 550,000 Jews living across the Green Line in what was formerly Jordan. The problem is a war between God and Satan. Allah is Satan. I drew a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for saying this. Allah is Satan. Islam is not a religion, but a criminal psychosis. There is no way in the world, I don't care what Salam Fayyad said, there is no way in the world that the Palestinians will ever accept the presence of one Jew in Judea and Samaria, which means that this will eventually have to go for a showdown. In my opinion, it eventually mean the shutting down of the Palestinian Authority by the Israeli government as a result of one of their intifadas, a third intifada. And I don't have to tell you, it's not a popular thing. The United Nations will be against us. Most nations will be against us. The only people who will be with us are certain Christians. But the point is, the bottom line is, if they rise up in a third intifada, which I know that they have to do if they really want their state, it'll get shut down, and that'll be the end of the Palestinian Authority. By the way, I think the vast majority of Palestinians will rejoice in their hearts, because then they know they'll be able to put food on the table. If they live under Islamic law, they will have the same starvation and suffering that they have in all the countries surrounding Israel.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Avi. Let me tell you about a New Testament scripture that's very influential to us, and you can take it for what it's worth. I understand that you're not a follower of the New Testament, that you're a Jewish individual, which we fully respect. But in Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 and 2, it states there that 3.5 years before Armageddon, that John was to measure the temple, but he was not to measure the outer court of the temple, because it would be trodden down of the Gentiles for 42 months. There has been a proposal by President Clinton at Camp David in 2000 that the Temple Mount be placed under a sharing arrangement, because Arafat and Barak, they tried to settle most issues, and supposedly they finally got down to the Temple Mount, and they just could not agree. And Bill Clinton said, well, look, just share it. And supposedly Barak said, yes, we could do that. And Arafat said, it'll never work. You can't put Jews and Arabs on the same 35 acres without them killing one another. And Barak said, well, we could put it under UN supervision, and then we could get along that way. Well, apparently President Obama has bought into that same concept. And since the prophecy says, measure the temple, you can measure the temple, it'll be under Jewish control, but the outer court of the temple, where the mosque, Dome of the Rock is, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque is, would be under Arab control. That's what the prophecy seems to say, and I want your comments when we get back from this break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Endtime Ministries presents End of the Age, a 30-minute commercial-free TV show hosted by Irvin Baxter. Every Monday, End of the Age airs on the Church Channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. On End of the Age, Irvin depicts how modern issues like an establishment of a one-world government, the religion of Islam, a coming World War III, and more line up so clearly with Bible prophecies written over 2,000 years ago. To get tomorrow's news today, be sure to tune into End of the Age every Monday on the Church Channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. Visit endtime.com for more details, or call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
For years, I've been interested in Bible prophecy but never could find the truth. Until the day I stumbled upon a radio show called Politics and Religion. Two of my questions that no one could ever answer were, who will be the Antichrist and will Islam ever control the world? That day, Irvin just happened to be talking on the subject and recommended the DVD, Will Islam Rule the World? This lesson based everything on scripture, and it gave me answers I had been seeking for a long time. Get your copy of Will Islam Rule the World? Call 1-800-Endtime.
Death, destruction, poverty, war, disease. These are only some of the things that are ahead in the end time. Want to know more? Join us in reaching out and informing the world that over 2 billion people will die. We as a nation can't hide from this. We have to tell everyone we know about the prophesied war that will start from the river Euphrates. Call now to get your copy of World War III and spread the message that the end time is now. Call 1-800-END-TIME.
Allow me to pause to announce to all of you that I will be in Houston, Texas this coming Sunday, the 7th of August. I will be at Bethel Tabernacle, 1020 FM, 1960 East in Houston. The times are 10:45 a.m. on Sunday morning. I will be speaking there, and also 6:30 p.m. If you would like to be there, we certainly would love to have you. If you need more information, go to endtime.com/conferences, and there you'll see all the information. Also, you can call us 1-800-END-TIME in order to register for the conference. You do not have to register to attend. However, if you'd like to be qualified for the free drawing of a DVD to be given away, then do register, because that's where the drawing will be taken from. Or if you'd prefer to register online, simply go to endtime.com and pull up conferences again, and under the announcement of the Houston conference, there's a button to click on that you can register, and you can enter your information right there. So look forward to seeing a great crowd of people in Houston. Always huge turnout. It's going to be a great time this coming Sunday, 10:45 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. I hope to see you there. Our special guest today is Mr. Avi Lipkin, and we were talking before the break about a prophecy in the New Testament that states that the Temple Mount will apparently be placed under a sharing arrangement where the temple will be built on the Temple Mount. There are several prophecies stating that the temple will be built on the Temple Mount shortly before the Battle of Armageddon. But the prophecy states that the temple will be built and should be measured because it would be under Jewish control, and yet don't measure the outer court where the Dome of the Rock stands, where the Al-Aqsa stands, because that would be under Arab control. This arrangement, Avi, has been trumpeted by Bill Clinton, also by Barack Obama and others. Many politicians actually in Israel, including Ehud Barak, have said this is the only answer to the Temple Mount. You'll never get a solution. Do you think, from your knowledge of Benjamin Netanyahu, that if it was dangled an agreement, a final peace dangled in front of him, including being able to rebuild Israel's third temple on the Temple Mount, do you think he would ever agree to such an agreement?
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter, because the bottom line is the Arabs would never agree to share the Temple Mount. And in fact, I want to share something. I have written 5 books. My 5th book is called Islam Prophesied in Genesis, and it's available for my 800 number. It's available for my website, vicmord.com. This book shows very clearly, I take apart the book of Genesis in 12 weekly readings, and I talk about the 2 weeks of Hanukkah, the 8 days of Hanukkah, and some very interesting information. You know, the Waqf, those people in charge of the Temple Mount, in 1937 issued a pamphlet showing that indeed Solomon's Temple and the Second Temple were where the mosques are now. Now all of a sudden the Palestinians are saying, guess what? There was never a temple, a first temple or a second temple. And you know what that means? It means these Muslims are completely psychotic. Because, you know, what are psychotic people? They're people who are living in castles in the air. They're disconnected from reality. For the Muslims to agree to the building of a Jewish temple, firstly, it would be complete abomination for them. Secondly, it would show that the leadership has been psychotic all along, because there was a temple. There was a first temple. There was a second temple. Jesus overturned the money changers' tables at the temple. He had his bar mitzvah at the temple. He visited the temple on Hanukkah, John 10, verse 22. And so the Muslims say, guess what? There was no temple. The Muslims, therefore, deny the validity of the Old Testament and the New Testament. These people are completely nuts. They're completely psychotic. So it doesn't matter what Netanyahu would say. Besides Netanyahu, I don't think anyone in Israel would really want that either. But the point is, the bottom line is the Arabs will never agree to it.
Well, it's so interesting when you think about these things, because that's what they did discuss at Camp David. And that's what Ehud Barak was willing to do. But Arafat looked at President Clinton and said, "Oh, there never was a temple on the Temple Mount." And Clinton said, "Well, yeah, there was. Jesus taught there." And Arafat said, "There never was a temple on the Temple Mount." And he kept repeating that. And that's when Clinton shut the talks down and said, "This guy's out of touch with reality. There's no way we'll ever get a peace with this." So what you're saying there is what President Clinton concluded at that particular time.
Yes, and again, I have to emphasize, I am forming a Judeo-Christian political party to run for the Knesset in Israel. I'm at the head of a Judeo-Christian political party, and insofar as I'm doing that, I met with the Vatican ambassador to Israel, Archbishop Pietro Sambi, and he told me in confidence a story that he met with the senior Islamic leadership, and they also came across with this cockamamie stuff that that there was never a temple, first temple, second temple. And he was the one who told me, where did Jesus overturn the money changers' table? So if you're talking about making peace with a completely insane Muslim leadership, you know the answer. There will never be an agreement with them, not on the Temple Mount and not on the Palestinian state. These people are completely nuts. And I want to tell you something. The Muslims themselves in Israel, a lot of Palestinians, by the way, have Jewish blood. And if Israel was strong enough, Israel would say to these Palestinians who have Jewish blood, "You want to come back? We'll let you come back. You want to be Jews? You want to be Christians? That's terrific. Just get out of Islam," which, like I said before, is a criminal psychosis. And I got a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for saying it. And Obama is going to pass the same law in America, that anybody who preaches against Islam was going to go to jail, or say that Allah is Satan, which, of course, Allah is Satan. So, these people have a way of thinking which makes no sense if you're a logical, rational human being. Therefore, there can be no peace agreement.
However, Avi, there are prophecies in the New Testament, which, of course, we as Christians hold dear. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, that says the Antichrist will sit in the temple of God, claiming to be God. And Revelation, of course, says measure the temple in this 42 months before the Battle of Armageddon. So it indicates in those two passages there will be a temple built under a sharing arrangement, and possibly this solution would be imposed upon them. The Bible prophesies a war that's coming that's going to wipe out 1/3 of mankind. And I can foresee a total change of the world condition after such a war would happen that would cause the world community to say, we don't care what you Israelis want or what you Palestinians want. We're imposing a solution on this thing because we can't play games with this anymore. We just lost 1/3 of the world's population. So, I'm not necessarily asking you to comment on that. I'm simply saying from a Christian perspective, that is what we believe is going to happen. Even though we don't say that it should happen, we believe that is what is going to happen. Avi, we got, I want to, first of all, your 800 number you mentioned, let's pause a moment because I'm sure a lot of people would like to have that. Give that to us right now, would you?
Okay, well, I have books, CDs, and DVDs, but only the books are being sold at the 800 number. So if you want just books, it's 1-800-540-0828, 1-800-540-0828. If you want books, CDs, DVDs, then you can get them from the website vicmord.com, VICMORD.com, and there I have many, many teachings I've done with Chuck Missler and other groups, and people can, and by the way, if you're in Google and YouTube, by the way, there's a YouTube everybody should look at, of course, it's free. It's called Saudi Plant, Plant, done by a Pastor Carl Gallups in Pensacola. And he quoted very correctly, very accurately what my wife picked up, that Obama swore to the Egyptian foreign minister on January 19th, 2010. This was in the broadcast when Obama was in Cairo after his inauguration. He swore he's a Muslim, father's a Muslim, stepfather's a Muslim, and he will show the world what he's going to do to Israel when the time comes, meaning Obama will destroy Israel. But by the way, I wanted to say something with your permission. when you were saying that I don't believe in the New Testament. I'm not a Christian in the terms that you would want me to be, but I love the New Testament. I love Jesus. I love the teachings in the New Testament, and I think I can reconcile the idea of the temple that you've been talking about and the destruction of 1/3 of the human race. And the way I see it is like this. You have in Revelation also the harlot riding the dragon, correct?
Yes.
Now, a dragon's nature is to devour the harlot, any harlot. A harlot is a man, woman, or system paid for services rendered. And I always say like this, the globalists are in bed with the Muslims. They're being paid, the oil people, the corporations, and they're sacrificing everything for money. Jesus talks indeed about you can't serve the Lord and serve Mammon at the same time. You serve one or the other. But the day is going to come that the dragon is going to try to devour the harlot. And on that day, the harlot is going to do in the dragon. So I believe that Islam will be terminated if Islam goes against the human race, which is what it's doing. They kill the Jews on Saturday, Christians on Sunday, Hindus and Buddhists any day, and then the Muslims slaughter each other in the name of Allah, which shows that cannot be God. But the point I'm saying is the day will come that the one world government globalists will say, you know what, this Islam has gone too far. We're going to clamp down. We're going to destroy Islam, and we're going to establish a one world government religion. And then that one world government religion will then go and build a temple in Jerusalem with the Jews. And then everything else, if you remove Islam for a moment, Islam under no circumstances will agree to a temple. So it would have to be a one world government globalist system that does it. And then indeed the Antichrist, I don't think the Antichrist will come from Islam. Islam is just an insanity. The Antichrist will come from a very rational system that will supposedly bring the world all its solutions.
Well, actually, you and I are very close on what we believe about that. We've actually produced a DVD, Will Islam Rule the World, and Will the Antichrist Be a Muslim? And we agree exactly with what you just said there, Avi. So very interesting. You and I are going to have to put our heads together someday and have a lunch or something so we can really talk some of these things out. We've got callers. I'll tell you what, I'm afraid we're too close to our next break to take our callers right now, but I do want to take some calls in the next segment. So if you're out there, just be patient with us for just a moment. I was so interested in when I learned that your wife, am I right that she worked for Egyptian intelligence? Is that true?
No. She is Egyptian Jewish, and her family was expelled from Egypt 40 years ago. She's been working for the last 30 years as an intelligence gatherer in Jerusalem for the Israeli government.
Okay.
And I speak to my wife every morning when I wake up and every night when I go to sleep because there's an 8-hour time difference, and she primes me every day with the latest stuff she's getting from the Islamic Arabic press.
Okay, well, very good. Well, what I really want to know from you today before we finish, and the questions are proliferating here on me, but what I really want to know is what's really going on in the Arab Spring? Why do we call for the removal of Gaddafi, and yet it seems like we have never been willing to call for the removal of Assad from Syria, and yet Assad's killing more of his people than Gaddafi is of his Libyan people. We'd love to hear your take on that, and so we'll be talking about that in the next segment. We're up against a break right now. If you'd like to get any of Avi Lipkin's books, you may contact him for the books, 800-5400-828, or for all of his materials, including DVDs, it's vicmord.com. Now, help me out with this, Avi. Is it VICMORD?
Correct. Victor Mordecai is my pen name, so half a Victor, half a Mordecai.
Okay, vicmord.com for all that he has. We'll be back.
Because of our faithful partners, we're impacting millions of lives across the globe on a daily basis through our magazine, radio program, Politics and Religion, our TV show, End of the Age, and more. Every day we get emails and calls from people sharing the story of how Endtime Ministries has benefited their life and surrounding area. Misty from Tennessee says,
"My favorite thing about Endtime Ministries is that you base everything you teach on Scripture. You have a genuine love for God and fulfilling the calling He has placed on your life."
Elizabeth says,
Endtime Ministries has helped me understand the times we are in, and now I lead a Bible study to help others understand.
Pastor D.G. Hargrove from Dallas says,
I feel that Irvin Baxter is an oracle of truth. God's hand is surely upon him. I am grateful for his faithfulness to God's purpose.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME and ask how you can become a part of Endtime Ministries as we fulfill the Great Commission and change the world together.
Endtime Ministries has now made Irvin's TV show, End of the Age, available to you at no cost every day of the work week. Monday through Friday before Politics and Religion starting at 2:30 p.m. Central Time, you will be able to watch End of the Age as part of the Politics and Religion pre-show. So if you were unable to watch the show Monday night, or maybe you would like to see it again, you will now be able to view it as that week's show airs every day 30 minutes before Politics and Religion. All you do is when 2:30 rolls around, go to endtime.com/multimedia and select the live webcast option on your phone or computer, just like you would if you were going to watch or listen to Politics and Religion. Start watching End of the Age with Irvin Baxter Monday through Friday at 2:30 p.m. Central Time during the Politics and Religion pre-show. If you have any questions, call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
Quick announcements. I will be speaking at the North Cities Pentecostal Church this Wednesday night. That's tomorrow evening. What is that? Is that the 3rd of August? And you are invited to come out to that meeting at 7:30 p.m. The address is 502 Beltline, Garland, Texas. So you would be welcome at that meeting. We'd love to have you. And then Sunday, I will be in Houston, Texas at Bethel Tabernacle, 1020 FM 1960 East, Houston, and that time is Sunday morning on the 7th of August at 10:45, Sunday evening at 6:30 p.m. 2 sessions, and I will be teaching on very special subjects, the 7 trumpets of Revelation, and also the second coming of Jesus Christ and what that's all about. So I hope you can join us there in Houston if you live in that area. Our very special guest today is Mr. Irvin Lipkin, and we always enjoy so much having Avi on the program. Appreciate him so very much. Before the break, I had asked him to make some sense of the Arab Spring, and then we're going to the callers after he does that. So what's going on here, Avi? Do you understand what's going on?
Well, the way I understand it is very simple. There is a decision in the U.S. government to bring down autocratic rulers and to form a fanatic Muslim Brotherhood leadership replacement, which will then march on Iran. Iran is a Shiite country, and it is a threat to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is Sunni. The Sunnis feel a mortal danger, and they are right to feel a mortal danger. The Shiites of Iran are marching, and until now pretty much unopposed. President Obama, who I do believe is a Muslim, a Sunni Muslim, loyal to the King of Saudi Arabia, has promised that he himself would never go to war against a Muslim country. America also financially is in big trouble because of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya. And so, Obama doesn't want to go to war with Iran because America is overextended as it is. So what Obama's plan is, bring in fanatic Sunnis who hate the Shiites like you cannot believe. And then once you have all these regimes in place, then they will march. They will be the proxies, the surrogates, the useful idiots who will march on the Shiite the Shiite country of Iran. And basically, if they don't do that, then the Shiites are going to win, and they're going to behead the Saudi leadership. So basically, this is a war which makes the Catholic Protestants war of Reformation for 300 years look like a Sunday school picnic. This is going to be a tremendous battle. And then, of course, the Bashar al-Assad will be overthrown by the Sunnis. And when that happens, the Christians of Syria and the Shiite Alawites will be massacred. The Sunnis of Syria will then link up with the Sunnis in Lebanon and terminate the Hezbollah, which is also another tentacle of Shiite Iran. So basically, Lebanon and Syria will have their Shiites decimated or forced to convert to Sunni Islam. And then this will be the setting for the Armageddon. The Armageddon will be a Sunni war against Israel. We may see a war very soon with Iran, with Syria, with Lebanon, but that's not the Armageddon war. The world will be united against the Shiites.
Okay. A follow-up question or two here. So you're thinking that neither Israel nor the U.S. will go against Iran, even if we have absolute proof that Iran now has a nuclear weapon?
Well, you know what? Let me rephrase it. I am not saying that Israel, America will not go against Iran. What I'm saying is the primary force against Iran will be Sunni. I would even say very temporarily we will see an alliance between Jewish Israel, Christian America, and Sunni Saudis and the Muslim Brotherhoods. But what's going to happen immediately after the war with Iran, and Iran is taken apart, or a pro-Sunni regime or UN regime with PR, proportional representation for the people of Iran. Don't forget, half of Iran is Shiite, half of Iran is minorities, which are Sunnis. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have, I believe, a parliament. It will have military occupation, world occupation of Iran, like you had a world occupation of Germany. And what will happen is the Shiite system will be terminated by this new regime in Iran imposed by the Saudis and the one world government. And then when all that happens, then everything will be okay for the world. But temporarily, maybe the spark that will start the war could be an Israeli air attack. It could be an American attack together with Israel. And by the way, I don't think Israel would attack ever without a specific green light from the Pentagon or from the president.
Well, Israel has said repeatedly that under no conditions will they allow Iran to have a nuclear bomb. Do you believe they'll really back that up regardless?
Well, you know what? I don't have to tell you. Like I said very early in this show, I'm not in the front row of the secret negotiations, and I'm not in the front row of what the Mossad is doing. But, Israel has all this information about what's really going on in Iran and exactly how close they are to achieving a nuclear weapon. And so I think that the day comes, the people who are supposed to know will know, and the decisions will be taken by the Pentagon and Israel together, and probably very, very much close with the Saudis and the Qataris. By the way, there's this email circulating now that came out from Hezbollah. I mean, they're petrified, and they came out and they said that the Israeli Air Force is in Qatar. And Qatar actually is very neutral. It's very pro-Iranian and pro-Saudi and pro-everybody. They're very neutral. And the Israeli Air Force is in Qatar, which is right across the pond, from Iran.
Well, that actually was in an article that I read this last week. And
Right.
of course, with WikiLeaks, both Saudi Arabia and Bahrain had requested the U.S. to attack Iran, and the Saudi Arabia had given Israel permission to land and to have a base in Saudi Arabia to launch a war against Iran because, like you say, there's real enmity between those two forces. I've got a caller that's been waiting a long time to talk to you, Avi. I want to go there now. And calling from Illinois. Hello, Chris. You're on with Mr. Avi Lipkin.
Hey, Brother Baxter, Mr. Avi. You were talking earlier that you don't believe that the Palestinians will allow Jews to live in West Gaza, right?
You mean the West Bank, don't you, Chris?
West Bank, yeah,
West Bank. But by the way, the Gaza example is exactly the West Bank example. If Gaza refused to allow even one Jew to live in Gaza, the Palestinians have said many times they will never allow one Jew to live under Palestinian rule. Why should we be surprised? They're like Nazis. They don't want any Jews who are alive living with them. They want any Jews alive, period.
Well, 'cause I know, Brother Baxter, I know that you've been teaching in Matthew 24, the Great Tribulation, where it says in verse 15, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by the end of the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him hear, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, so on and so forth. And even you said that Judea is the West Bank, Gaza, right?
Yeah, let me help out here a little bit, Chris. Avi, what I teach here on our program is, according to Matthew chapter 24, verse 15 through 21, it states there, when you see the abomination of desolation, which is why I believe that's when the Antichrist will stand on the Temple Mount claiming to be the ultimate authority there. When he does that, verse 16 says that then let those which be in Judea flee, because then shall be great tribulation such as never has been before. And I've been teaching that the scenario that's been proposed both by Salam Fayyad and also in an extensive article in Haaretz newspaper on January the 1 of 2010, that they actually will sign an agreement and they'll settle the settlement problem by the Jews supposedly being assured safety living under Palestinian control out in Judea, Samaria. However, something's going to ignite the Arab hatred of those Jews. That safety will only be temporary. And when the abomination of desolation takes place, Jesus said, those that live in Judea must run for your life, because then will be tribulation such as never has been before, nor ever again shall be. So I've been teaching that they, in fact, will have Jewish people living under Palestinian control for the first 3.5 years of the agreement, but then something will ignite the passion of the Arabs, and they'll have the most terrible slaughter of the Jewish people, sorry to say, that has ever happened, and that will probably be what we call the Third Intifada.
Well, I understand where you're coming from. I would like to take the liberty, if I may, of going back to history. When the New Testament was written, when Matthew was written, I think it was around the year 40, 50 A.D., what you had indeed here was a prophecy that came true at that time, because in the year 66, the Romans defiled the temple. That was the abomination that led at that time to the desolation. And the Jews rose up and were slaughtered by the Romans. And that was the end of the temple and the end of Jerusalem. And then a few years later, there was another revolt in the years 132 and 135 by Bar Kokhba. And again, at first, the Jews were winning, and legion after Roman legion that came to the Holy Land got destroyed, until finally there were no more Jews. And finally, the Judeans were defeated roundly and scattered through all the nations of the world. So in this sense, what is spoken of the abomination leading to the desolation happened 2,000 years ago. But again, I don't have to tell you, you know this. The Bible is such a rich book that you have past, present, future interpretation of things that have been going on. Hitler was killing Jews and Christians. Stalin was killing Jews and Christians. And by the way, usually when there's a Satanist killing Jews, he'll kill Christians and vice versa. Muslims are killing Jews and Christians. The whole Arab Spring deal is basically the end of Christianity in Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, and you're going to have millions of Christians fleeing the Middle East to come to the United States, and they'll be followed by tens of millions of Muslims coming into the U.S. So, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen regarding the future abomination that leads to the desolation, but like I said before, I think the Muslims are going to carry out some crazy, terrible things, and so many people are going to die that the one world government globalists are going to say enough. We've had enough of this Islam. Germans are good people. You got to ban Nazism. Muslims are good people. You got to ban Islam.
Well, I certainly agree with you about that, and I fully understand the teaching that you refer to there, and just something for you to consider for future reference. It does say there, then shall be great tribulation. Then it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon will not give her light, the stars will fall from heaven, and then shall appear the sign of the coming of the Son of Man, and he will send his angels to gather his elect, which I believe is the rapture at that particular time, immediately after the tribulation referred to by Jesus there in Matthew 24. So that's a discussion for another time, Avi. I so appreciate your open-mindedness and your obvious desire to really know the truth, and I think we all should be right there, because there are unprecedented days just ahead, and beyond that, I fully agree with you that the world community that plans this new world order will reach the point where they're going to realize we will never be able to build our new world order with the Muslims unless we allow them to rule it. And so consequently, I do believe that they will have to do exactly what you have said. They'll have to ultimately take the power away from Islam so they can build their projected New World Order, which is then what the Antichrist will rule over. It's going to be a very interesting time. Mr. Avi Lipkin is our guest today, and we have one more segment left. Stay with us.
Do you ever hear the news and know that something's just not right? Do you ever read about politics and think, what is going on? Maybe you wonder what all this means for you and me. Well, we finally have some answers. Irvin Baxter has a 12-lesson series called Understanding the End Time that has aired throughout the world on TBN and Daystar. This series contains lessons like United States discovered in the Bible, Islam and Bible prophecy, and the 7 trumpets. The Bible says in Daniel 11:33, "They that understand among the people shall instruct many." Would you like to be one who understands end-time events so you can instruct your friends and loved ones? If your answer is yes, then don't miss out on Understanding the End Time with Irvin Baxter. Call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and request your copy of Understanding the End Time.
Technology, technology, technology. I know what you're thinking. It isn't for me. Some I've heard say it's only for geeks. Well, not anymore. Digital downloading has become quite simple, so that all of us not so up to date with technology can do it with a breeze. Whether you're snowboarding in Alaska or climbing Mount Everest or just simply sitting with some friends who think they know all the answers to Bible prophecy, you can now download tons of product from all your technical gadgets. Don't even ask me to name them. Go to endtime.com day or night, and in a matter of minutes, guess who looks like a genius? Your friends will be speechless. Go to www.endtime.com. That's ENDTIME.com. Click on shop, and you're in business. Don't delay. Download today and become a part of the End Time Geek Squad.
Once again, our guest today, Mr. Avi Lipkin, and we're discussing the Middle East and all the things that are happening there. Now, Avi, I want to back up a little bit because we passed over a question a while ago that I wasn't sure that we really got to the bottom of, but I've been watching with fascination when the revolts happened in Egypt. Almost immediately, President Obama came out and said Mubarak must go. Then the same thing happened in Libya. Immediately, Obama said Gaddafi must go. And yet, when the uprisings occurred in Syria, silence. And still, President Obama has not definitively said it's time for Assad to go. Now, why the difference, do you know?
Well, firstly, you'll forgive me for, I'm trying not to be arrogant, but you may consider it arrogance. I think it's a given that if you have 10% of the population of Syria was a Shiite Alawite, and they control, 10% controls over 10% of the population, which is Christian, and 80% of the population, which is Sunni. And the Sunnis were slaughtered in 1982 in the city of Hama. You know, on Sunday, the Bashar al-Assad killed 150 people. That's nothing compared to the 30,000 people who were killed by his father, Hafiz al-Assad, in 1982. The Sunnis have a long memory. The day of reckoning is coming. Bashar al-Assad is finished. He doesn't need Obama to say yes or no. He doesn't need Obama, to say that the Bashar al-Assad regime is finished. The Sunnis are 80%. They're going to take power. They're going to wipe out the Christians, unfortunately. America has to gear up to receive the Christians of Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. Then there'll be many, many Shiite Alawites are going to flee. Obama will definitely take them in. And then, by the way, in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood comes to power. The first thing they're going to do is kill the Christians. There are no more Jews. So if there are no more Jews, they got to go for the Christians. So you're going to have 10 million Coptic Christians either dying, converting to Islam, or fleeing. Now, when there are no more Christians in Egypt, I think this is the end of the Christianity in Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. Of course, you have more important things on American media like Casey Anthony. But the Christians will be terminated in the Middle East very soon. The only place where Christians will live and prosper will be Jewish Israel. So what's going to happen is the economies collapse. The Christians are the first to come here. By the way, if Christians come here from the Middle East, this is a blessing for America because Christians are educated, they're industrious, they're hardworking. And then when those people leave the Middle East, the Islamic peoples that are left are all going to be starving because the economies are all going to fail. They're all going to collapse. No international corporation will invest in Egypt or Syria if they're slaughtering the Christians. And that's what the Muslim Brotherhood is good for. So when all that happens, these countries will self-destruct. America is going to take in 150 million Muslims. Agenda 21, you've heard of Agenda 21, right?
Sure.
The confiscation of the forests and all. You're going to have Muslim cities built from scratch within these forests. And you're going to have 50 to 100, 150 million brought into the U.S. There are already 20, 30 million Muslims in America that the U.S. governments have been bringing in for a number of reasons. The floodgates are open because many American leaders are bribed by the Saudis. A lot of people have committed treason against Christian America. This is my message in the churches. So what's going to happen is the fanatic Sunni Muslim Arab Spring. It's not an Arab Spring. It's an Arab. Forgive me for saying it. The heat of Texas and Oklahoma right now, 111 degrees. This is not good. These countries are all going to collapse. The populations are going to starve. When they starve, they're going to flee. They're going to come to where it's greener, literally, which is the U.S., Canada, Europe, and Latin America. And then once these 100, 200 million Muslims are entrenched in all these countries in Europe, America, and Latin America, they're going to work for the Islamization of those countries, which will mean the destruction of those countries, because Islam is a failed system.
Okay, I've got two more things I want to ask you about, Avi. David Broder, the famous columnist for the Washington Post, now deceased, but back on October the 31st of last year, he wrote a column saying that Barack Obama must go to war against Iran. His logic was, number one, Iran is a threat to world peace, and he could go to war against Iran and have the support of the Republicans because they favor that action. Furthermore, he said Barack Obama should do it because if he doesn't get the economy going again, he'll never get reelected in 2012. And he stated the only way to get this economy going is going to be a major war. He pointed out that Franklin D. Roosevelt couldn't get out of the Great Depression. No matter what he tried, nothing worked until finally he plunged America into World War II, and that pulled us finally out of the economic doldrums. That's what Mr. David Broder said in this column published in our most influential newspaper in America, the Washington Post, and then many articles have been written over the last 2 weeks that have sort of hooked onto that and agreed with that. So with that concept going on, and with Iran supposedly trying to develop nuclear weapons, one more time, I'd just like to ask your opinion. Do you think that such a scenario could play out?
I say absolutely yes. And let me explain why. I'm not a prophet and I'm not a genius, but I have a wife who listens to their broadcasts. And the Saudis came out with this broadcast where they said, President Obama has two tasks. The first task is to destroy the Shiite threat, Iran, and the second task is to destroy the Jewish threat, Israel. Now, President Obama, it is true, has said he will never go to war against a Muslim country. But and the Saudis said if President Obama doesn't go to war against Iran, he can pack his bags and go home. That's what the Saudis said. Now, I think you'll agree with me. When Obama came to power in 2009 in January, Wall Street was at 6,000. And within a year and a half, Wall Street went up to 12,000. And I predict the Saudis were behind that. The Saudis will bring Wall Street up to 18,000 by November 2012 in order for Obama to get reelected. Wall Street will hit 18,000. Price of gas will be $2.50 a gallon. And everybody's going to say, salami, salami, baloney, that Obama's the Messiah. He did it. But part of the deal here is, indeed, the overthrow of the Shiite regime, and then immediately the international oil companies running land grab in Iran to get the new oil out from the ground, because the Ayatollah leadership has destroyed the oil infrastructure. Because if you have the oil flowing to the west, you continue to strengthen the Christian stranglehold over Islam. So the Iranian approach is deny the Christian world, or deny the one world government the oil, and then Islam reigns supreme.
Okay, last question. Prime Minister Netanyahu was under incredible pressure from Barack Obama to resume negotiations on the basis of 1967 borders with land swaps. However, when Netanyahu went before the joint session of Congress, he received 30 standing ovations. It seemed like after that, Barack Obama backed off dramatically. From a Jewish perspective, from an Israeli perspective, am I reading that right, that the message from Congress was we are more on the side of Netanyahu than we are on the side of Barack Obama? Is that the way that was interpreted in Israel?
Absolutely correct. And indeed, it's very important to remember that Congress, after the last elections in November, went from 75% pro-Israel to 80% pro-Israel. The American public, the American population is pro-Israel. The problem is not the legislature. The problem is the executive and the judicial. And this is where the problem of Israel is. So it's very important to preach in the churches, which is what I do, what I've been doing for the last 21 years. I've been in over 1,000 churches of all denominations to get the Christians to understand that you guys have a right and an obligation to stand with Israel because it's your Israel too. It's your Jerusalem too. It's your Messiah too, who's going to appear or reappear on the Mount of Olives. And if the Muslims get their way, the Jews will be dead on Saturday, the Christians will be dead on Sunday, and God's going to destroy this earth. So this is a war for the survival of the human race. This is not just about Israel, and it's not about territories or settlements. This is a war between God and Satan.
You are absolutely right, Avi. There's no doubt about it. The Battle of Armageddon will be a war between the real Christ, the Antichrist, between God and Satan, and it's going to be over Jerusalem, the place where God said 37 times in the Old Testament, I will put my name there. Well, that's what we're all involved in. That's what's going on in the world right now. Avi, what a joy to have you. And one more time, if you'd like to order his 5 books or any of the 5, the number 1-800-540-0828, or go to vicmord.com. That's VICMORD.com. You can order not only the books there, but quite a number of DVDs and other materials. So, hey, Avi, so great to have you. Keep up the good work. And I'll be in Israel August the 26th. I go every single year. I'm looking forward to it once again. So God bless you and God bless Israel, and we'll do it again.
I'd love to. By the way, I will only be back after the 15th of September, so I'm sorry I'm going to miss you, but next time we'll do it.
Okay, appreciate it so much, Avi, and you keep up the good work. God bless you so very much. Mr. Avi Lipkin, and one more time, the website is VicMord, VICMORD.com. That comes from Victor Mordecai, vicmord.com. If you're interested in learning more about Avi Lipkin and the materials that he has produced, certainly appreciate having Avi on today. One more time, I want to tell all of you, I will be speaking tomorrow evening. That's the 3rd of August at the North Cities Pentecostal Church, 502 Beltline, Garland, Texas. That's at 7:30 p.m. All of you are invited. And then this coming Sunday, I'll be in Houston, Texas at Bethel Tabernacle. That'll be 10:45 a.m., 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. All the information at endtime.com. Give us a call or go to the website for all that information, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Politics and Religion is a production of Endtime Ministries. We are a daily 1-hour broadcast dedicated to bringing you the prophetic fulfillments happening every single day. If you would like to listen to archive programs, subscribe to Endtime Magazine, find a prophecy conference, order Endtime products, or subscribe to our free weekly e-newsletter, call 1-800-ENDTIME. Or go to endtime.com and take advantage of everything that the website has to offer. To be a part of Endtime Ministries, partner with us and help this message go to the entire world. Endtime Ministries is a partner-supported ministry. We'd like to take a moment to thank all of our loyal partners and listeners for helping make Politics and Religion and Endtime Ministries possible.
This program proves that the system of implementing 666 is being set up right now. The U.S. government is attempting to establish a national ID through the standardization of driver's licenses. The world is being prepared for the mark of the beast right now. For a gift of $25 or more, you can have a copy of today's program with Irvin Baxter and Mark Lerner, Could U.S. Escape 666, Mark of the Beast? Simply go to endtime.com or give us a call today at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
I am so excited to introduce you to 10 lessons making up our Understanding the End Time prophecy series. The first one is the United States in the Bible. The second one is the New World Order is world government. The third one, Islam and Bible prophecy. The fourth one, World War III. The fifth one, Israel's God-given destiny. Number 6, Israel, God's prophetic time clock. Number 7, Holy Roman Empire reborn. 8, Antichrist and the false prophet. 9, 666, Mark of the Beast. And then number 10, the coming one world religion. I think a lot of you are going to want to have all 10 of these marvelous prophecy lessons. If you go through just these 10 DVDs, each of them 1 hour, you are going to know more about Bible prophecy than the average student graduating with a degree from a theological seminary. We need to know where we are right now. Jesus Christ said, I tell you these things before they come to pass, so that when they do come to pass, you might believe. So, the number to call one more time, 1-800-END-TIME, that's 1-800-363-8463, or go to endtime.com.
You can now have all 10 brand new Understanding the End Time DVDs filmed in End Time's new cutting-edge studio with green screen technology and beautiful full-screen graphics. All 10 hours are just $155. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now.